the lesson that, all of us are living in this world is one life, and it's a journey, and it's never a destination. And, we're only given one shot, and we don't know how long that shot's going to play out for. Right. So just seizing the moment, taking it through and enjoying it. Right. I think, the subtitle is, as you mentioned, a memoir of unbound action and failing my way to success. That's really where I found every big hit, every big breakthrough, every like great success came right after I got my fucking ass kicked, or right after a massive failure. And that's the piece you just got. It takes time. And I get that, because it's scary, especially entrepreneurship. It's scary sometimes, but if you have that rigor and can convince yourself to go forward a little bit and just take those steps, it's a journey. It's fun.
Hey, this is a quick shout out from one of our awesome sponsors. Check this out. Thank you to Tranquil Turtle Massage. They are located right in the heart of downtown Coeur D'Alene, and Tracy is a master massage specialist and Hanu Ashiatsu trainer. Look, my wife and I go see her and her team every single month, and we walk away feeling great. Sore muscles are gone. We feel relaxed. You got to go check them out. Tell them I sent you for $25 off your massage package. Also, while you're there, make sure you check out CDA Brows, Body and Ink, offering Coeur d'Alene's best tattoo brows, plasma fibroblast tightening, and PMU services. Tell them I sent you and you'll save $100 on your tattoo brows or plasma tightening. Make sure you check out Tranquil Turtle Massage and CDA Brows, Body and Ink at pnwmobilemassage.com. Jeremy, you're a father, entrepreneur, investor, speaker, managing director of Delk Enterprises, author, and your new book, Without a Plan, is now available. It's a #1 bestseller. It's so good. People need to go get this book. So great to have you back on the show, man. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Erik.
Yeah, we spoke earlier this year, but for those who are new to the show, who is Jeremy Delk and what is it that you do?
Yeah, look, I'm a small town kid from Nowheresville, USA. We're from Bardstown, Kentucky, bourbon capital of the world. And yeah, just been, on this, entrepreneurial journey for the last 20 something years. We fund businesses, a little venture capital, industry agnostic. And, over the last year after writing this book, I've been trying to pay a lot of it forward, and I'm doing a lot of these podcasts now. I'm doing a lot of business coaching and consulting and having a blast, truly. I mean, because for me, I think entrepreneur spirit, and you even talk about a little bit in the book, it's probably been driven by this constant curiosity and just, I love learning, right? I think that's just what loves it. So I had a kid that came in, actually saw me on some podcast somewhere, and he's got a really cool business doing stuff with people, working with traumatic brain, hustled it together, no money, single, operator, broke $1 million, doing $1.5 million. And, I had a personal touch story with my cousin being affected by that. So I'm probably going to do a deal with him in some capacity, learn something, help people. So it's been great, man. That's kind of what's keeping me busy today, plus a couple of kids that.
I want to get into your book, Without a Plan, a memoir of unbound action and failing my way to success, recently came out, and I've been reading it, and it's mind-blowing. I'm not quite done with it yet, but I'm really excited to get through the rest of it. I don't want to give too much of this book away because people need to go out and read this thing. What's the journey that you're going to take readers through, and then what will they walk away with after reading Without a Plan?
Yeah, I mean, it really, I think the key takeaways is I hate all these people on social media there and these fake influencers that just kind of, talk and tell stories, and it's just not authentic. Or they talk about, I'm telling you, these are 17 great steps to do this, this, and this. You're going to be like, fucking no, especially if they haven't done them, right? It's all like trial by theory. And what I wanted to do, because some of the things in the stories you've read so far, right, they are kind of, unbelievable. That's why I referenced everything. Like, here was a press release about this one, and I was with this person when it happened, because I wanted, you could fact check all of it, because, the lesson that, all of us are living in this world is one life, and it's a journey, and it's never a destination. And, we're only given one shot, and we don't know how long that shot's going to play out for. Right. So just seizing the moment, taking it through and enjoying it. Right. I think, the subtitle is, as you mentioned, a memoir of unbound action and failing my way to success. That's really where I found every big hit, every big breakthrough, every like great success came right after I got my fucking ass kicked, or right after a massive failure. And that's the piece you just got. It takes time. And I get that, because it's scary, especially entrepreneurship. It's scary sometimes, But if you have that rigor and can convince yourself to go forward a little bit and just take those steps, you know, it's a journey. It's fun.
Come on, man. That's awesome. What was your personal journey as you wrote this book, and how long did it take?
Yeah. So, I mean, probably halfway through, I didn't rip it all up, but I just threw it to the side for about 2 weeks. And I was, and most of the stories that I had written in that time were still in there, but it was so one-sided. It was, and not one side, one lens is probably, it was all looked at one lens, and that lens was business and the business lessons, which were a lot of them, right? I mean, how to take risk, how not take risk, when to have some humility, understanding, communication. So there's a lot of victories, successes, and failures in there. But the part that felt disingenuous to me was I was leaving out half of the other lens, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the personal side. And we all are humans. And if you don't really share that piece, you're living most of the important stuff out, right? So that's what I went back in, and I talked about my personal journey. So my father passed away when I was 7 years old, and I think that probably shifted me to a big part of what's caused to motivate me and drive me and maybe appreciate the amount of time we're all given, right? Which is limited in some circumstances. So that, and the rest of the chapters that unfolded in my life has really kind of shaped me as that human.
Man, you open your book by doing a backstory of who your dad was. And at one point he was smuggling things, but you had this awesome relationship with him. Tell me about your dad. What kind of man was he? And what's one of your favorite memories of him?
Yeah, I mean, so it's 7, you don't know, but he was that alpha male wolf pack kind of guy, right? I mean,
yeah.
I think the line in the book, my dad kicked your dad's ass, right? I mean, he was, hard living biker guy, whatever. But that's, and I definitely, retrospectively, after a bunch of therapy, look back and probably see some similarities, right? Someone, maybe see me as, a bit of a hard charging CEO. I curse a lot, sound like I'm from New York and all these things. But my dad was very much like that too, right? Like, again, bar fight, super alpha male kind of leader. But, my mom would describe him as like the biggest teddy bear. And I think that's what I kind of try to go to as well. And people that are in my circle, I think you see that. And I wear my heart on my sleeve, and passion goes both ways, man. You can be passionate and be a hard ass and be pissed off and angry and something, but you have to be passionate and be very sensitive as well. So I try to really feel feelings now. I think that's, it took me some time to do that. I think for a long time with the loss of my dad, I think a lot of people can relate to this. I can give you a clinical diagnosis as a therapist here and a couple $100,000 worth of personal experience in therapy. I'm like this anxious attachment style. I was like from relationships. And what that really means is I would rather, like, Erik, I think we feel good right now and we're having a great conversation, but in like 10 minutes, if I feel like you're not that into me, I would just be, hey, I'm out, man. I'm done. Like, obviously not really in literally, but in a relationship or partnership, if I felt at any point earlier days in my life that I was potentially vulnerable, of potentially getting hurt, I would kill it. I would break the relationship. I would end it a lot of times self-destructively, right? Because I was trying to protect myself, which is a shitty way to live. So if you can be vulnerable and go through, and that's really where you had that intensity with partners and relationships and spouses and friends.
You got the news from a family friend down the street named Miss Sherry that your dad had passed away. And then at this point in your book, you kind of skipped about 11 years. What's going through your mind in that moment at that point? And what does the next 11 years look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was disbelief because, we had, this level of, normalcy, right? And family that loved you and this, this safety net. And to have that ripped apart, it was first disbelief. And then you start to really unpack and realize that you went from a pretty nice house to a smaller house, to a then smaller house, to an apartment. And your mom was working third shift. And that probably, that definitely, I think, has driven me from the financial goals that I've always had, because also a different kind of vulnerability, like financial vulnerability, right? And that risk of not being able to be in control. And that is something that was probably ingrained in me because I became the man of the house at 7 years old. I grew up quick. I mean, we talk later on in the book about my mom getting kind of upset with me because my brother was 8 or 10. He was 8. No, yeah, he was 8. I was 13. And I would literally say, like, when's he going to grow up? It's pretty fucked up to say, right? But like in my head at 13, I'd already lived that life. And like, what do you mean, dude? You're 8 years, like, and my mom's like, let him be a kid. And like, I didn't really get that chance. I think that's a big piece. And then from there, it's like, hey, where do you go? And I think the piece backing up my dad of like, you're not promised tomorrow has been that constant yearning of wanting to go and do more and see more. You know, Bardstown, Kentucky was a small town and 30,000 people or so. And we, you know, I felt that, you know, I was a popular kid, good looking kid, had all the, you know, girlfriends and played sports and stuff. But I always felt like kind of a big fish, small pond kind of deal. And I wanted to get out and, you know, Sinatra, right? If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So New York is where I set my sights on that I wanted to be there. I had no clue how I was going to get there, hence the title of the book, but that's where I wanted to go. So I knew about the mafia, right? And I wasn't Italian, so I wasn't gonna be in the fucking mob. So that was off. And then I also knew about Wall Street. Those are my two things from culture. That's all New York is, right? Wall Street and mob. That's it. There's nothing more. So like, all right, well, let's check out this Wall Street thing. You know, I think there's a later on in the book in one of the chapters of me in college, you know, I had a $30,000 inheritance from my dad passing away. And I tell the story about me day trading that and becoming pretty successful. In 18 months, I grew it to $2 million portfolio, making $30,000, $40,000 a day trading, which just seems really cool and super impressive. Until you hear the real impressive part when I blew it up fucking in 4 days and lost everything. But that was the first gut punch kind of, you know, big loss that I had, you know, financially in my life.
I love your book, Without a Plan. And I think too many people get hung up on this how when they're pursuing their goals, their dreams, and their purpose. What's the best method for them to feel unstuck or get out of that complacent stage?
Yeah. So you have to, I'm glad you brought that up because so many times, you know, not so many, all of the time, we as individuals are the fucking problem. That's it. We are in our own ways in whatever it is that we want to achieve, period. So you have to just be conscious of that and then call yourself out on it. You know, the part of me writing this book is because I didn't want to be that poser like, hey, yeah, this is what you should do in these self-help tips or whatever. I lay out 20 years of, you know, me just going into me losing that money. I wasn't on Wall Street. I was in Providence, Rhode Island. I had no plan to get to Wall Street. But if I didn't go down that path, not knowing what I didn't know, I wouldn't have got an odd job at UPS, you know, Abercrombie and Fitch, doing landscaping and renting apartments. I wouldn't have been able to do that. The renting apartments wouldn't have led me to talking to somebody at a social party at the pool, trying to get more renters to make some commissions, to run into an institutional equity trader to give me a job at Fidelity in Boston, which then took me to New York as one of the youngest Fidelity institutional traders of all time. There's no plan for that. And then later on, I talk about when I left Fidelity and I went in the building material business and we were in retail window space. If I had a plan and I dissected down, like, I'm going to be the greatest window, you know, retailer in the world and whatever, it would have been, I would have gotten there. I would have achieved it, but it would have been the wrong plan. Right. Because I ended up becoming the largest distributor in the Northeast to then making our own brand and doing our own manufacturing in Germany and Italy. I knew nothing about international OEM manufacturing. I knew nothing about that until I got into it. So have a direction on the horizon of where it is that you want to go. But sometimes that how could really hurt you because you could have the wrong plan. Yeah. And also like the whole thing's like, oh, bad luck. And this happened to me, or you're so successful. You're so lucky. You know, I firmly don't believe that anything's happening, you know, to you. I think it's happening for you. And if you can change your perspective on that and know that there's going to be some sort of lesson, that lesson may be learned tomorrow, or it could be, you know, 20 years down the road, but there's a lesson there. You just have to look for it.
For you, what would you say is the most important lesson that you've ever learned?
I'll go back to the personal side when I kind of put it on the book is really, you know, really trying to do some deep diving and asking yourself why you're doing it is what you're doing. Like I'm constantly, there was a period of my life where I was building businesses, selling businesses, doing all those things solely because I was just, you know, not happy and I needed to be distracted. Now I still do that. And I often question myself, hey, am I doing that behavior? Is that a bad behavior or is it good? And it's not, because I'm now doing it for the right reasons, because I love to learn and I'm curious. But it does kind of get you into that perspective of like, hey, I've got a business deal or whatever, but I'm a busy guy. I run a bunch of companies, hundreds of employees, all these things. I still take my kids to school every morning. I still pick them up. I still like those things. I drove to Canton, Ohio, which is from where it's like, you can't get there at all. And that's 6 hours and set out in a, flag football tournament, a few weekends ago, but I wouldn't be anywhere else. And I have worked for, so I think really kind of just questioning why you're doing what you're doing is something that everyone should do. Right. And if you can't get down to that visceral place, then you're not there yet. And you need to still, keep, peeling that back a little bit. That's in business, personal life, relationships, etc. And that's probably the biggest lesson. If you have that gut check that we all need every now and again, you need to kind of bring it in and say, hey, am I supposed to be here? Is this what we're doing? Having that gut check will keep you on course, because it's inevitable. We get off course all the time, right? And I think that brings you back home, which is something that's worked for me. And it also, like, to use it positively to actually make something besides a sob story, making positive work in business, it helps you get that passion, right? As opposed to like, hey, I've got a book and it's great. It's got a really cool cover, right? Shameless plug. It's really pretty. Like, that's not passionate. Like, I'm passionate now because I put my heart and soul into it. And like, you may not like me, but it's all fucking true, right? And you're going to learn something from it. And that's all I care about. Hearing, I was on someone this morning that met me or read my book, and she's in England. And like, I'm touching someone who I'm across the pond, everyone who's read my book, and it's like, your story touched me so much. I lost my dad like 2 weeks before I published my book, and like, he never got to read it. It's like, fucking wow, success. Number one bestseller is cool, but that's the real success, man. That's so cool. Like the obituary thing, it made me think of it. I did. I've got a friend I met at Necker Island years ago. Dyslexic dude. It's on, I think it's on YouTube. I did like an interview with him because I don't really have a podcast, but he's such a cool story. Branson gave him a loan. He paid the loan back in 6 months, built a business. I mean, dyslexic, bullied in school. He's such an inspirational story. I love him. I'll get a WhatsApp from him. Hey man, we're raising money for some kids. I like to get like, I think I sent 1,000 backpacks down like a few months ago. He's just cool. This is from a high school dropout. We're going through, and I ended the interview with him like, what else did we not cover, man? And he said the fucking coolest thing, and you got to watch the interview. It was so cool. But he says, on my tombstone, I want, I think he's born in like 85. Shane, do you remember 85? Yeah. It's like 1985 and the dash. I wasn't perfect, but I tried. That's fucking pretty cool. It's a big kiteboard or whatever. He said, I've already got it all figured out, Jeremy. And he's like, when I die at the church, it's going to be a party and whatever. And it's going to be me on a kiteboard into the sunset. Dude, pretty cool, right?
What do you think high achievers are doing in their lives that other people are not doing?
Going back, and I think that's where there's a little bit of a hack there for anything. It's just peeling that onion back internally. And if you don't feel it, if you're not close to booger crying, you're fucking not there yet. You need to keep digging. But it's that's truly what it is. And some people don't want to go there because it sucks. But that's it. So many people, people are sheep. They'd like to kind of go through, and this is the uniformity, and that's what it is. It's hard to be honest with yourself. We tell ourselves so many lies, and we're very good at it. We're very convincing of it. So I really think that's it. I think it's the amount of, just really, digging into that passion. Then it becomes your obligation. Right now, it's like, I've got to be successful in offering my good product or services. I've got to get up, right? Because I mean, you've had days, Erik, where you've like, dude, fuck, I've got to edit another podcast, right? I mean, it's your obligation though. Like you've done, and then now you have people that are actually, because they listen and they learn something from you. You're letting them down. So you are not doing this for Erik Allen, right? You're doing this for your community. So now that's your obligation, and you feel such joy in doing what you could have it. That's why you are who you are.
I think people have a hard time trying to figure out what their purpose is. How do you help somebody find their purpose, or how can somebody find their purpose?
I think it's just really, looking at and setting an expectation of it's before the expectation. It's changing the mindset. And this is where I'm on social media, but I don't actually do it. Someone does it for me, but I have to be, I guess. I don't like to be completely frank. I posted a cool picture of my kids the other day and a cat, but I don't like, that's just not my shtick. Because I think there's so many people out there that are living lies, and it's affecting our youth, that they are going and chasing after this, or, oh, I want to do a new business and start 100 million. Dude, you know how long it took me to make my first million, right? It was hard.
Yeah.
And everyone has this false sense. And then when they don't get the nearly impossible or unrealistic expectation result in a microwave society immediately, now they feel depressed. They feel bad. I'm a failure. I'm all these things. And it's just a vicious cycle. And I try to tell people, the way you need to find it is, your goal should be the very best Jeremy Delk you can be ever. Mm-hmm. You're the best Jeremy Delk ever. There's never been a better Jeremy Delk, period. Yep. And if you do that, you've won. Then with that expectation, the second piece is like, well, what does Jeremy Delk want? What's important to me, right? And it does not need to be, well, my neighbor's got a cooler car, or it needs this. What is it? Mm-hmm. And it's usually relationships, it's friends, it's family, it's kids, it's legacy, writing your obituary. That's really that's typically what it is. Then reverse engineer back into how I get all that stuff that's important to me.
So what's coming up next for you? What are you most excited about right now?
Yeah, I mean, love doing what I'm doing now, talking, meeting new people. I think, we are in for, the winter's coming. I think it's, I'm excited for it, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm a bit of a masochist, but in these times that are trying and hard, there are opportunities, and that's where there's massive opportunities to go through. And I guess I would just, anyone that's looking at it in a different lens, man, 2008, 99. I mean, we've all been through these things. Yep. Guess what? We're still here. We're a resilient race, this human beings that we are, right? I guess a species more than a race, but we're a very resilient species, and the fact that we can survive and we'll come out of this better, smarter, and more, if we accept and allow ourselves to be. So I think that's just changing it, mindset perspective. Like, what's the lessons? What do I go through, and how do I keep doing what I'm doing, and block out the noise. If you don't need to worry about it, don't worry about it. Just focus on what your mission is.
Man, Jeremy, thank you so much for your time today. I so appreciate it, dude. You're an absolute world changer. It's so good to catch up with you. People need to go pick up your book, Without a Plan, right now. Check out the link down below to get yours.
Thank you, man. Be well.
Thank you so much for checking out the show today. I really appreciate it. I hope that my guest was able to bring you some amazing wisdom and knowledge to help you continue to fight for your goals, your dreams, and your purpose. If you could do me one big favor and just hit that subscribe button, I would so appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Keep changing the world. I believe in you. Have an amazing day.